When it comes to our training, how often should we fail a lift? How often should we attempt to reach a new 1RM? Well, the answers may surprise you to both of those. This time around, we've got a segment from a longer conversation, one we called The 6 Principles to a Yes to Anything Life. We've got Jameson joined by Ben and Cole talking about 2 of their 6 principles that they broke down in the full episode, which you can find at the link in the video description. The 3rd principle is strength with longevity, and the 4th is engine before ego. Kicking off the clip, we've got Cole talking about what percentage we should be spending the vast majority of our time at as we are developing our strength. So let us get to it.
I mean, it's so easy on the strength one specifically to consider where some of the best adaptations live, and that is in the 80 to 90% range. And honestly, if you're just living right around 85%, that's a great place to live on the regular. Yeah. And the reason why is because you're likely at that percentile, you're not going to be going so hard that you're going to start to lose form. That's what we mean by technical failure. You're lifting with good form and sound technique all the time, no matter what. When you start to get near 90%, 90 to 93, that's when, depending on how tired you are, what your training was like before, what your nervous system was like, you start to run into some issues where you might start to have some technical breakdown. And you don't need to work there, because you're still getting really good adaptations, if not arguably the same adaptations, by working at 85% and moving that really well with speed. So live there, because that's going to set you up for the long game really, really well. And I mean, what we're talking about here is lift to technical failure. Don't go beyond that. That's the right adaptation that you're looking for. And from a muscle perspective, from a nervous system perspective, and you massively reduce your injury risk by living by that principle.
Practically, somebody who wants to adhere to this training style and wants to adhere to this, like these outcomes. Like, I want to be athletic forever, train for the long game. I want fitness to add to my life, not take from my life, that whole thing. Somebody who sees fitness as synonymous with just human capability, an advanced level of human capability, to say the least. If that's the person we're talking to right now, how often should that person be failing lifts?
Failing lifts?
Yep.
0.
Never.
Right. Great. How often should that person be testing their 1 rep max?
0 to once a year.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say 1 time a year at the most, if you happen to be feeling really good that day. It should be off of feel. Yep. Like in my opinion, like you're feeling really, really good and the bar's moving really, really well, and you just kind of feeling it that day, take it for a spin and see what you got. And if it happens to be a PR, great. You can progressively overload it for people, and we peak people to test 1RMs throughout the year, but it's because we also recognize that psychologically people want to do that. And so we try to set them up for success in order to give an attempt. But even in the way that we word it and program it is, you're not going above technical failure. If your form breaks down, you're done. You didn't set a PR. Deal with it. Like, that's okay. Yeah. Well, you'll have other attempts in the future. The same principle applies. Just because you're going for a new PR doesn't mean that you get to have technical breakdown. And to call it out, all of the issues I ever had athletically typically came from trying to do lifts too heavy with bad form because my ego was getting in the way, and I was just trying to do something that I was trying to lift heavier than I should have been lifting that day. And that usually created problems recovery-wise that made it hard for me to train the next day or even the next week. It just doesn't need, you don't need to. Yeah. You just don't need to.
Yeah. I know it sounds like a stupid question. So I want to just circle back to it and let Ben speak to that, because I know it sounds silly, but people fail lifts all the time.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you stronger. That doesn't make you fitter.
That's it.
And that's what we just want to be. We just want to get people the best possible results we can. So the way that we structure that is very, very, very heavily influenced by the Chinese weightlifting methodology, which is they just do triples at 85% all the time. And then to Cole's point, they don't have times when they do singles. The time they do singles is when they feel awesome. So triples at 85, triples at 85, triples at 85, triples at 85. Oh, today is a good day. Not awesome. Maybe I'll go for a heavier double. done. Well, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks down the road, like today feels awesome. Okay, cool. Let's see what we got and build up to the heavy one that day. But that's really, it's such a simple program where it's let's work them at their threshold, and then athlete autonomy. You give the athlete the power to say, and then we're going to go for it here.
Yeah, I think it's such an important component for both strength and conditioning at the opposite ends of the spectrum. I think it's the same thing for beginners, and it's the same thing for advanced athletes that get caught up too much in the only way to get better is to see this number increase. And so you have advanced athletes playing at the 95 to 98% range all the time, hoping that they'll get lucky that day in PR while making no progress. And then you have the beginner that's also valuing that too much and they're going to very naturally make more progress more quickly than the advanced athlete, but that is also within a certain and appropriate range that is based off of their like mechanics and technical failure. So I know that it's like I really do think that it would wake a lot of people up to very simply answer the question, how often should I be failing lifts? Never. And if you could apply that training principle, holy cow, I really do think so many people on both ends of the spectrum would be making more progress, mitigating more injury, and being able to come back tomorrow. So
it's the equivalent of asking somebody when you're teaching them to drive a car, how often should you crash your car?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to teach you to go scuba diving. How often should my equipment malfunction? The answer is 0. You're not supposed to crash. Your equipment's not supposed to malfunction.
Yeah, and it goes back to the conditioning component of like, oh, I'm doing a threshold test. How often should I be forced to rest? Well, if you are forced to go hands on knees and rest while doing a threshold test, you've not probably performed it at your threshold.
You stopped.
Right.
Like, you quit. So,
Because you went too hard.
Cool. So tying it to that, are there same principles apply to the engine before ego concept, but is there anything unique you would apply to the conditioning component to that principle of strength for longevity, but also engine before ego, training and intentional intensities? Anything that you guys would add to that one?
There's a reason you could lump these two together, and we've already talked about it, which is we want people training at, you're going to make the greatest gains by training at your threshold. If you're below it, you can make movements and skill progressions, but not as much as if you increase the load or increase the pace, right? Like you going for a 3-mile walk is not getting the same fitness as you going for a 3-mile jog versus you going for a 3-mile run at your sustainable pace, which is also the place where you can get the most gains, not by going out the first mile too fast to where you have to stop and put your hands on your knees. That's your point. So the idea behind the whole thing of the aerobic side is, again, same thing. Think of it in terms of being at your threshold, which what we're saying is not to, in weightlifting, technical failure, right? In aerobic side, to the point where you've tipped over. Hinshaw has a great metaphor for this, which he calls the Everest death zone. You can only spend so much time climbing Mount Everest above the death zone, right? Once you cross the point where you have no more oxygen, you have like a set amount of time up there before you need to come back down. Well, what we're trying to do is that if you can go above that, but it better be for a workout that's really short, right? If you go above that and we're going to do a 40-minute threshold piece, what are we doing? Like there's no, just get right up to the death zone. Again, maximal sustainable pace. What does those words mean? Maximal. It's as hard as you can go before you go above to where you have to go back down. So can you sit right at that zone?
Thank you for watching this segment of a longer episode, what we called 6 Principles for the Yes to Anything Life. You can get the full episode and our 531 listener guide by clicking the link in the description.